Ashley Rose here of A Rose Manifested, and I just wanted to talk about the blood moon eclipse that is about to happen. I am so excited. So tomorrow actually is the full moon. It is going to be, let me look at my notes. So it's July 28th at 3:51 is going to be the full moon. So technically tonight at 3:51 in the morning, the moon will be full. And the reason that this is a really cool thing is because a lunar eclipse cannot happen unless there is a full moon. So what happens with a lunar eclipse is the sun and the earth and the moon are all in direct alignment. So the earth actually shadows the moon, and that's what causes the eclipse, which is super cool. So things to recognize this full moon, the lunar eclipse of this magnitude has not happened in a century, and there's actually 5 planets that are in retrograde right now. So we have Mars that's in retrograde, we have Saturn that's in retrograde. Jupiter was actually just in retrograde and it came out of retrograde and went direct July 10th. So some people may still be feeling the effects of that as well. Pluto's in retrograde, Neptune is in retrograde, and of course Mercury just went into retrograde as well. I'm going to be posting links to, I'm actually doing 2 separate blog posts for this one that are going to be linked together, which one of them will be on the blood lunar eclipse itself, and then the other one will be on the 5 different retrogrades and how they are going to affect you and like what that looks like. So let's talk a little bit more about the blood moon eclipse. I'm just looking at my notes per usual. They're actually really messy this time. So Mercury retrograde and the lunar eclipse, these 2 things together in particular, it's like, I kind of look at it like the way that I do, like when my husband comes home from work and he's like, oh, I'm so tired and I'm so sore and this, that, and the other thing, or he gets an injury, and I tell him, it's just his body's way of telling him that he needs to slow down. And honestly, as I was doing the research for all 5 of these retrogrades and the lunar eclipse, like the whole universe is telling you to slow down. This lunar eclipse in particular is really, because it's of such magnitude and because there are 5 different eclipses happening at the same time, this blood lunar eclipse is really a spiritual rebirth in this lifetime. So instead of, dying and having a rebirth, you're actually having an actual rebirth, which you won't experience the full effect of it. It's not going to like punch you in the face. You might feel like that because of all of the retrogrades and everything like that. You're kind of going through like an emotional, spiritual ringer at this point in your life, and that's completely normal. Like I said, just give yourself, be patient with yourself. I wouldn't start anything new until at least Mercury goes direct, which Mercury will go direct, let me see here, August 18th, it will go direct. So then you can really start. I would take this time to really focus on your past and how we can break our patterns. The lunar eclipse is really calling us to open up and listen to our spirit guides and have them tell us this lunar eclipse is going to be this can be a break in your karmic patterns. So if you've had patterns that you feel like you're like repeating over and over and over and over again, the lunar eclipse is the time to focus on what your guides are telling you to help you break that pattern so that you can wipe your karma slate clean, right? So the way that I think of it is like you're not going to get rid of any good karma that you've created, but you can definitely purge some bad karma that you've maybe been repeating, not even necessarily in this lifetime, but in lifetimes previous as well. So the way that you can tell if you are going to be, or how you are going to be affected by the lunar eclipse, is through your rising sign or your ascendant sign, which if you're interested in learning what that is, leave me a comment below and I can help you figure that out. There's special grids and stuff like that. Your ascendant sign is based on where the sign was that was rising in the eastern horizon when you were born. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word for a second. I'm sorry. I just like hit. I've done a whole bunch of readings for people for their ascendant signs, and I've done a whole bunch of posts and stuff like that, and I could not for the life of me just think of what that was. So I wrote here, I want to read what I wrote because the way that I wrote it was like such a spark moment for me. So I said, the lunar eclipse is like a spiritual explosion. It will change your life. Don't get discouraged if you don't see a big change. Remember, little actions daily can have a big effect on your life. This is why it's so important to continue self-love and gratitude. I also compared it to like the spark of a firework. So like the moments that we've been feeling up to this point, which could have started even as early as like the beginning of July, even though Mercury did not go retrograde until yesterday. It's like the little sparks before a firework, before that big bang and explosion. And like I feel like that's the best analogy that I can give, is that it's like those little sparks, and then the actual firework going off is like, you know, the lunar eclipse and how amazing and beautiful and wonderful that actually is. And then the feeling that you're left after that is kind of, sometimes you can be like, man, I crave more of that. I want more of that, especially as intuitives and with particular things, particular planets that are going into retrograde, which I'll leave the links for everything down below so you can check out the specific post of the 5 planets in retrograde and how they're going to affect you, because a couple of the planets in particular are going to leave your intuitive and psychic side almost like a little bit raw, I want to say, where you need to really keep that in check and make sure that you know, you're going to be coming forward with your best foot forward and really be mindful that your actions have consequences. But sometimes we get a little bit too direct with that, and we need to reel it in and be mindful of how what we say really affects other people, right? So this lunar eclipse is going to really create a separation or a severance. Like I said, your karmic patterns, your karmic past, you can really like cut that and cut it out of your life. And like I said before, that's what that is, what that particular thing is that you're cutting out of your life, whether it's a pattern or a person or whatever it is, will be dependent on what your rising or ascendant sign are. The rising ascendant sign is the same thing. It's just a different name for it. So we have all of the retrogrades. I'm just going to talk about it a little bit since we're here, right? So what is a retrograde? A retrograde is when the planet appears to be going in the opposite orbit. So it's not actually going in the opposite orbit, but the way that it is in relation to Earth, that's how it appears. And the way that this affects us is that it can kind of spiritually have this kind of like discombobulation in our life. So especially when Mercury goes into retrograde, we have a lot of people that are nervous. There's a lot of miscommunications and mishaps, and that's why we have people say, don't start anything new. You don't want to start like a new writing project or a new, you know, not that you don't want to start new relationships, but I wouldn't get serious about new relationships until Mercury goes direct. And the way that I like to look at this retrograde, especially Mercury retrograde, because I feel like that's the biggest one. I think a lot of people who even aren't really like woo people are like, oh my god, Mercury's in retrograde, and everybody starts freaking out. But here's how I like to look at it is, if you don't shake things up a little bit, you can't appreciate the calm in your life. If everything is just stagnant all the time, that's almost more suffocating than when it's like chaotic, right? Because then you're like, oh, I'm so bored, I'm not going anywhere in life. So when we have moments like that where it seems like everything's going wrong, it really does make us appreciate when things are just going right or just normal or blah. You know what I mean? So like I said, the planets in retrograde right now, obviously Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter was just in retrograde, Pluto's in retrograde, and Neptune is in retrograde. And if you want to know how those can affect you, then go ahead and check out the blog post below. If you really want me to make a video on it, I definitely can. I just feel like it's more interesting for me to read that than to have me just like spew off like astrological facts to you guys, because it's more of like a textbook type of a thing than like whatever. So I will be hopefully doing some card pulls here in the near future. I'm hoping to do some. I definitely check out my Facebook group, which I will have linked below, because I will be posting just maybe a 3-card pull, and then you choose whichever cards you're drawn to, and like I said, in this, don't be scared of this time. It can be intimidating because everything seems to be going crazy with all of the planets in retrograde, and it really is like a huge moment in the universe right now, right? Everything that's happening with the retrogrades and the lunar eclipse, it's affecting the universe, which is affecting the universe inside of you. So it really can be overwhelming. The thing that I suggest is just, read the posts, do your research, and really figure out how it's affecting you, because being more prepared for it, it may not change the events that are happening in your life, but it will change how you react to them, and that's everything. How you react to things is the key to manifestation and everything like that. So, when you stub your toe, or if something doesn't work out the exact way that you want it to, or, you get a paycheck that's way less than you thought it was going to be, and you only have, a certain amount of money to pay things, instead of being begrudging about paying those bills and doing those things, changing your perspective and really being thankful, because if you didn't have a rent payment, then you wouldn't have a house to live in. If you didn't have a cell phone payment or a car payment, or car insurance or whatever it is, and you wouldn't have those things. So really being grateful for those things is where it all starts. And then also being very patient with yourself and being very, like 100%, I would advise every single person here, what you should be doing on the lunar eclipse is to be journaling, and journaling about those past experiences, and really drudging up all of those past experiences that are still sticking with you, and working through them, and asking your guides, even if you're just if you've ever seen I forget what his name is right now, but the guy who is like the celebrity, he goes and tells them, people that are coming through that have passed, and he just scribbles on a page. He doesn't actually like write anything down. There isn't any real like pictures or anything like that. It's just all scribbles. And even if you're just doing that, or if you're just writing sentences that aren't complete, or there aren't like paragraphs, or there isn't any sense to them, just start writing what comes down to you. That's a really, really, really good form of meditation, and a good form of connecting to your guides, because they'll just start coming through and pouring through you, and you'll be able to purge all of that stuff. And what I like to do, this is the full moon ritual that I do regardless of whether it's a lunar eclipse or not, is I'll write something down of, I'm ready to release da 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 da, and then I'll go out and I'll actually physically light it on fire, because I am releasing that. I'm letting the universe take it from me. I'm letting my guides support me through it. It's really cleansing and really powerful, and a really good way of purging all of that negative karma that you have built up. So that being said, that is all I had today. It's not quite as organized as I would like it to be, but I feel like it's definitely just as genuine. So I hope you guys got a lot of real content out of that. And if you need a little bit more structure, I definitely have written everything down and posted it all below. So go check it out, and enjoy the lunar eclipse. This is a time to celebrate. I definitely wouldn't be, like I said, starting any new projects or anything like that, but I wouldn't be afraid of it either, because like I said, if these things didn't happen in our life, then our life would just be stagnant, and that is so much less enjoyable. So I hope you guys have a great blood moon eclipse, and have a great day.